So today we have Dennis Vilovic. Dennis is an entrepreneur and global citizen. He has lived in 9 different countries on 3 different continents, advertising governments and business on how to increase operational efficiency using technology and data. And today he is speaking on defining the new normal in meetings and events planning as the founder of TroopTravel. Dennis, welcome to Pennsylvania.
Great, thanks Trevor. Pleasure being here. I'll run through a couple of slides, and what I want to do is a bit, explain to you first of all, what are we actually doing? And then secondly, as well, what happened since we actually collected that big check, which you see here on the back, which was us winning the startup Avalanche in Pennsylvania in 2018. So I'll just go through that a bit, and then as well explaining a bit some new trends we see when you look at actually at meetings and events travel. And so I'll just start sharing my screen, pull up a short presentation I have here for you. And let me see. Good. Excellent. So let me maybe actually start. I mean, I guess you're asking yourself, okay, why the heck should I actually now listen to a startup in the meetings and events space, knowing that basically no in-person meetings are happening? So I thought maybe let me give you a good reason to listen to our story here, basically. And the good reason is that since the outbreak of COVID, we actually grew our customer base from 4 to 15 Fortune 500 companies. So to basically 15 large multinational companies, some of the biggest companies around the world. And I want to share with you a bit the story of Troop. And as you heard earlier, I've been introduced as TroopTravel, and actually we just went through rebranding from TroopTravel to Troop. We cut the travel out of TroopTravel just to highlight the technology element. What we are doing, we're a technology company. We're not an agency. We don't book your tickets. We don't book your meeting rooms. We help you to plan meetings and events. Before founding this company, I was working in a global organization, and they had thousands of people all over the world. And they were continuously struggling with the planning of bringing people together coming from different places. And that's where we thought, okay, we have to help these people to actually make the whole planning process easier and data-driven rather than based on opinion. So let's start with, let's think about for a second that we are actually organizing that kind of a meeting. It could be a meeting of a few people. It could be an event like Pennsylvania, where we would try to see how can we bring speakers together, etc. So when we think about this, and it doesn't really matter whether we think about this group of people coming from a global scale, so from all over the world, which maybe at current times is more challenging. It could be as well within a continent or even within a country, or even if we think about a city. So whenever these people are coming together, the key question they have is, what is the best place for them to come together? So where do they meet? And if you think about answering this question in a corporate environment, you'll realize that's actually extremely difficult to answer. There are hundreds of factors influencing the decision on where to meet. And before COVID, it was mainly driven around maybe cost, as well as experience, maybe travel time, carbon footprint, visa requirements, a lot of different things. But now it has become actually remarkably more challenging for companies to answer these questions because of COVID. And that's mainly because of 2 key facts. One is around the travel restrictions, the new ones which are out there, and your health and safety concerns whenever you travel somewhere. So what happened continuously, basically, that planners never had access to these kind of data points or factors in one system. So they took a lot of decisions based on opinions. And that's where we said, okay, we're going to help these guys. And we have built a big data analytics platform, which actually aggregates all these different data points, which are influencing your decision of where to have a meeting or how to have a meeting. So here in the case, you'll see, for example, when you bring a group of people together coming from different places, well, how many of those people would need to go in quarantine thinking about the current times? Or, well, you look at around the carbon footprint, for example, which is very important right now as well. So going back to when we collected this big check here, which you see in the back, basically in 2018, when we won the startup Avalanche, very exciting at that time. We were a very, very young startup. So to give you an idea, at that time, we were 3 people. Our tech was basically, we were at an MVP stage. We had a basic aggregator of flight cost, of hotel cost, of visa information, etc. And we had 0 paying customers. We were already engaged with a lot of large companies, which basically gave us feedback on our technology and who showed us that there is a value, but no one was yet paying for that. Now, we won the Techsylvania Award, and part of the award is that they actually sent you to Silicon Valley, to California, which was, for us, just incredible, because we are a Spanish South African startup, and coming from outside to the US into this, into this amazing Silicon Valley, there was really an amazing experience for us as entrepreneurs, as founders, etc. So I just put some pictures here from our trip there to California. One of the interesting things, for example, we met with Plug and Play via the introduction through Techsylvania, and actually beginning of this year, we ended up in the accelerator program of Plug and Play. So it really started everything there when we were in California the first time in 2018. We met companies like Tesla. We presented our technology there at the tech conference, and just really an amazing time. So if we jump now to end of 2019, so before basically COVID hit the world, we were at this stage. We were still 3 people. Our technology was now at a better stage, so which means we had more data points integrated. We had features like travel policy, a lot of different things in there. And we already actually had 4 Fortune 500 companies as paying customers. So 4 multinational companies, average size, 80,000 people, $40 billion in turnover, utilizing our technology to optimize their meetings and events planning. And in this period from Techsylvania till then, we won numerous more awards. Actually, we really managed to shake up the industry. We start building our name, which was very exciting. We still, as you saw earlier, with 3 people, we were still extremely small. And then basically what happened, what we all know, what we live in right now, is that this new normal hit in, this COVID-19, which if you follow, let's say, the news a bit, you'll heard obviously that the travel industry, the meetings and events industry, has basically lost 90% of the revenue. So a massive hit on the industry. And we quickly saw when it basically started in March was the last time I actually had my last business trip. We saw that on the planning side for meetings and events, for in-person meetings, there are a couple of new influences which you actually have to take into account when you think about organizing these meetings in the future. And I want to share that a bit with you. So the first thing is clearly around the pandemic. So infection rates, travel restrictions. So since we are a data company, we are aggregating data points. The first response to that was that, okay, let's bring actually infection data layers into the technology. So we brought in these data layers, so that helps you actually to compare the infection rates on different states, for example, in the United States or any country around the world. Now, the real big challenge actually has been the travel restrictions. And travel restrictions is in the pre-COVID world. If you're holding a European passport or North American, or as well from a lot of countries in Asia, basically you could travel the world. Well, this has changed now. So today, your starting point defines where you are able to travel to. And this is just here a screenshot of a case a couple of weeks ago, where basically the green countries are the countries someone can travel to coming from the United States. Now, if you're organizing a meeting with people coming from different markets, it's actually extremely difficult to bring these restrictions together, because it changes completely, as I said earlier, from where you're coming from. So to give you an example, this was the world for someone traveling from Spain. So we were not allowed to travel anywhere. So what the technology does on our side, we are aggregating these data points, and we actually help you. We have a suggestion algorithm, which basically tells you which are these few potentially locations where ideally everyone or the majority of your group could come together. So it's really not anymore like, where do we want to meet? No, it's actually, where can we meet? That's the status today. Another kind of trend we have seen is around cost optimization. And when you think about meetings and events in the corporate background, there have always been massive budgets. We are working with some of the largest pharmaceuticals in the world, and in the pre-COVID time, they were telling us they spent $500 million on business travel and another $500 million on meetings and events. So $1 billion on travel and events within one company. Crazy. So there has never been a lot of really control around how people were spending the budgets on meetings. And especially, are these meetings actually really necessary? Especially now after we have lived half a year in an environment where this virtual is very normal to us. So how could you do your work in a virtual environment and now you tell me you have to meet again? So obviously we know the power of in-person meetings, but it really now there's a focus from corporations on optimizing the spend or the cost on meetings and events. And that's something what we've always done. We have shown that if you apply our analysis and if you have a certain flexibility of where to meet, we are continuously able to reduce the cost by somewhere around 40%. We have saved customers with one analysis, $500,000 easy. Two more trends I quickly want to share. One about hybrid meetings. So we have heard that as well earlier today. So hybrid meetings are meetings where we have in-person and virtual participation, and they will stay because there's a massive value of this combination. And what we've seen then on the planning side, well, when you plan an in-person meeting, well, maybe quickly actually you want to see how would your planning change if certain participants would dial in instead of traveling. So that was one of the features we brought in immediately with the pandemic. You're able to optimize these meetings as well. The last kind of trend I want to show with you or share with you today are around regional and micro meetings. So it will still take time before we see these global meetings happen. But what we see already with our customers, China, for example, are basically 100% back to previous numbers in terms of meetings spent. And we see regional meetings happening within Europe, for example, as well. So actually, before the pandemic started, we brought in alternative transport methods into the technology, which then allows us to optimize a meeting on any kind of level. So the system actually tells you what's the ideal transport option for that person. Should they fly? Should they drive? Should they take the train? And that's specifically interesting if you're trying, for example, to optimize carbon footprint, what we see with a lot of our customers. So they will try to motivate people to rather take the train instead of the plane. And the same mechanism then actually allows us as well to address a trend we'll see, which is called micro meetings. So micro meetings are these meetings of people which used to go to the same office, which are actually living very closely to each other, which are fed up now to have team calls virtually and who wants to just to have a 1 or 2 hour meeting with a colleague. So when you look at these micro meetings, those are meetings happening within cities, and especially within cities where you have like a lot of traffic. If normally everyone lives in the suburbs, why would you go into the center of the city if it's very inefficient for everyone? So what we do on our side, we optimize here mainly on the total transport time for everyone, and you can actually find places which are much easier to reach for all your participants. Let me quickly just share a bit with you as well. How do we do as a company today, Troop today? So how have we maneuvered through the pandemic? As I said earlier, end of 2019, we were 3 people. Today, we're 8 people. We are fully virtual. We are distributed all over the world. We have actually someone based in Silicon Valley as well. We're in Hawaii and Australia, etc. People from within and without the industry, so to say. Leonard and myself, we don't have the background from the from the travel industry side. We have a technology and management consultancy background. We have gone through 4 amazing acceleration programs. As I said earlier, the plug and play in Silicon Valley was really amazing. Now we're part of Founders Factory in London. Techsylvania was our 3rd award. Today we have won 9 awards, amazing industry awards. And the last one was actually from Plug and Play, the Spring Summit, where we won the Startup Award. But I think the biggest recognition I want to share with you is actually the growth of customers since the outbreak of COVID-19. So end of 19, we had 4 Fortune 500s utilizing our technology. Today, we have 15, some of the largest companies in pharmaceutical and fast-moving consumer goods and energy consulting, despite the fact that no meetings and events are happening. But what we see is that these companies are getting ready for the new normal of meetings and events. And that's what we're doing in a nutshell, defining these new normal together with them. So that's the presentation I had for you. Let me check if there are some questions. Let me read them here. Good, Andre, thanks for the question. So the first question you have there, the best thing that happened at Avalanche, and I think I mentioned it actually there when they gave us the prize was, I mean, we were, again, a very early stage startup. So getting this recognition for us from Techsylvania was amazing, because it was for us the third prize, but the first prize from, or like the third award we won, the first award which we won from an investors and from a startup environment. So the first two were from an industry perspective. And Techsylvania was the first time that actually, let's say, people from the startup world basically told us, well, yeah, there might be something what you're building here. So that was actually very exciting for us. And then I think in general, the experience for us being there in Techsylvania, when you're nobody, as a startup, you just start, you want to go to all these big companies, and we reached out to all the big players because we believe in what we do. And we thought, this is amazing what we built here. Well, no one is there to, I don't know, to give you a hand or whatsoever. And even at these big conferences, they treat you like, well, who are you? They all go behind the unicorns where you want to get. No, but you have to get there first. And Techsylvania was different. So they treated us from the very beginning like VIPs. And that was actually, I thought, very exciting that they picked us even up from the airport. And this is, I really appreciated this treatment throughout the program. And they were continuously trying to help us to connect with people there in these networking events. And they were pushing us there. I mean, it's really, it was an amazing experience for us. And then, of course, that they sent us to Silicon Valley, that on a personal level, as an entrepreneur, when you dive into that environment, that ecosystem, it really, it really, I mean, changes you. And I mean, I'm running over time. Well, I just keep on talking because I think there are still some people listening to what I say. And just one story to share there, actually, in Silicon Valley, we had a meeting with Founders Fund, actually, which are as well here at Techsylvania. And we were presenting there our concept. And the guys, I mean, very experienced, of course, they were listening, and they were saying, okay, yeah, I have no problems to imagine that you can build $100 million business, but how are you going to hit the billion? And then I was thinking, like, I mean, my goodness, I mean, it would be amazing to hit $100 million. So how can I think about the billion then? But then I thought a lot about that, what the guys were saying, and it's true. It's like you have to think much bigger than you currently think. And I think that's a certain kind of mindset which you find there. Everyone apparently thinks like that in Silicon Valley. And that's maybe sometimes what, at least talking from my own experience here, being in a village somewhere in Spain, having my co-founder in South Africa as well, the access to these kind of people and mindsets, it's different. So you're not used to that, but it was extremely, extremely valuable. And let me see the second question here as well.
Yeah, sorry, you were rolling, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Great, perfect.
I wanted to come in and moderate, but you didn't need my help. But yeah, so he had a second question. Big data might not have been typically related to traveling. How did you manage to implement it in your startup, and how did the idea of using big data come about?
Yeah, so I touched a bit earlier on the idea. It was really, for me, when I was working with this large organization, it was extremely frustrating how people were deciding on their personal interest, everything around planning a meeting or planning a trip. And I hated that, because I thought, like, come on, we have to think about something which is bigger than us. And how can you kill an argument if you have two opinions? It's impossible. How can you say, like, well, no, Cluj is better than Paris? Well, it's opinions. So what we've done then, basically, we said, okay, let's look at how can we actually run an analysis based on data, on fact. And then we see, in terms of better, what does better mean? Well, potentially, if you have a budget, well, spending less is better. Obviously, it's in combination with security, with experience, with a lot of different things. But in this case, then it's very clear, like, you spend less, so Cluj might be, I mean, it's definitely better than Paris. So, And I think that was the frustration, which then brought us into that thinking of, okay, let's see, actually, if we apply these different data sources, if we aggregate them, there might be a value. And that's what we found out. And then actually, when we found that out, we saw like, wow, that's actually really a value. And we started actually with a B2C product, but then we got a lot of interest from the corporate world. And then we said, okay, let's focus on B2B. Yeah.
But you can also manipulate the data, right? Torture the data till it tells you what you want.
No, of course you can do that, but I mean that's
of course. No, I was just that's what my college stats teacher told me. So I just kind of said it right now. I have no idea if that's true.
You're right, and actually having that in mind needs you to think about your business model, because we thought, okay, the typical business model in the travel industry is that you get your commissions, and then you tend to you sell this stuff where you get the highest commission. And that's why we said, no, our business model is a SaaS model. You pay an annual license, and it doesn't influence my business model whether you have the meeting in Cluj or in Paris. So I don't care. So basically, I have no motivation to not give you the right data.
Yeah. Thank you, I guess, very much, Dennis. I don't want to keep you too long. But Andre says thank you. Thank you for taking the time today, for sharing that.
Thanks for having me.
Found it very interesting, and hopefully we'll see you back next year.
Definitely in person this time.
Yes, that's right, in person. Okay, guys. Cheers. Thank you for.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.